everyone. My name is Tori, and I'm a single mom. I have two beautiful kids, Zion and Zuri. They are 4 and 6 years old. Um, and I, I'm gonna just start from the top. Okay, so me and my kids at the top of this year, 2024, January 3rd, we had a house fire. The house fire devastated our family. We lost everything except our lives. We, I know that, that process has been a headache. It's not been fun. It's been extremely vulnerable sharing this story. Um, you never know who wishes to see you fail, but I realize that that doesn't matter, and it's better to share a story and see who has kind-hearted intentions and who's willing to help rather than to focus on the negative. So we lost our home. Obviously, we lost all of our things. We had to run out of the house. And um, me and my children, we stayed in a hotel. I had friends and family support us through that process, help get us in an Airbnb. I mean, honestly, like if I ever doubted God, and I don't, I really knew God was around me during that time. But on January, right after the fire, we checked into a hotel the next morning, and I started bleeding with what I thought was my period coming on. I didn't realize I didn't realize that I had still been bleeding until almost 2 weeks later. And at that moment, I went to the ER, and they told me to follow up with an OB. And you know how the OBs can get busy, and their schedules can get crazy. So I ended up um, having to go back to the ER a week later, and they told me that my blood levels had dropped since the previous ER visit, and that I needed to like urgently get to a OB to see what was going on, because if it continued to drop, I would eventually need a blood transfusion. So at that point, I um I went to I found the doctor. A couple of friends of mine referred me to a few of their doctors, and I went and I saw one doctor. She was super helpful. She even donated clothes um, to me and to my children because of the fire, which was, another blessing. And they discovered a growth in my endometrium lining, something called a polyp. Okay. And they said that that polyp they believed was causing my bleeding. So I needed to have surgery to have it removed. Now, they didn't have availability for a couple of months for a surgery. And since the next surgery opening was so far away, um, I just continued to bleed. And I know that the doctors told me if my blood levels dropped any longer, I would have to get a blood transfusion. And I don't think the doctors realized how much blood I was losing. Um, so at that point, I ended up going to there's this site online where you can call in your own blood work. So I called in my blood work, and went to get my blood checked. And basically, the doctors called me back, um, like in the next couple of days, and said, "Hey, you need to get to your nearest ER, and immediately, like now, because you're in critical condition, your blood levels have dropped down to a 5." And if you're not aware, your blood should be anywhere between I forget the measurement, um, but it should be anywhere between 12 and 15. So from 12 and 15, mine dropped down to a 5 is critical, because at that state, at any point, you could essentially pass out. Anything 7 and below is critical. So, um, so needless to say, I got off the phone with them and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get to the nearest ER. And I literally started panicking, y'all. I had a panic attack and I was freaking out. And I called everybody trying to see who could come and, like watch my kids. It's like I couldn't even go straight to the ER because my kids are with me. And that noise that you hear in the background, if you hear that noise in the background, that's my kids. so, um, so I went to the ER and I got my blood transfusions, and I was scared. I did not want to get blood transfusions. I had to get 2 of them, and it wasn't enough to bring my blood back to its normal state, but it was enough to take me out of that critical condition that I was in. And from there, went back to the doctor, and I called the nurses and I'm like, hey, I had to get 2 blood transfusions. Is there any way we can get this appointment sooner? And they actually told me that there's nothing that they could do. And they scheduled me for like a follow-up visit. And the day that they scheduled me for a follow-up, the doctor that I had been seeing was in. And I told her, I was like, hey, I just had 2 blood transfusions, and they're basically telling me that I'm going to have to wait a couple of months. And if I wait a couple of more months, I'll need more transfusions before the surgery. And she was like, oh, no, you can't wait. And she figured it out. She made it happen. And I was able to get my surgery moved up. So I went into surgery, and I was nervous, but I went into surgery, had a lot of support, and surgery went well. They removed the polyp. They did inform me that I should still experience some bleeding. And but once the bleeding stops, the next time I start bleeding again should be my normal period. And so, right after the surgery, I noticed that the bleeding continued. But then I heard about this young lady on Instagram a couple of weeks after my surgery. Her name was Jessica Petway. And it's scary because when I read her story, it sounded verbatim like mine. Like I had only had 2 blood transfusions, but she'd had like 10. And she'd been bleeding since last year, and she has 2 small kids, and her blood levels dropped down to a 4 at one point, and she passed out on her bathroom floor. I think was technically considered dead, and I was just like, it broke my spirit, and I was just like, okay, I can't have this happen. And a little backstory about me: I'm more holistic. I'm plant based. My children are plant based. So it was at that point, hearing her story, that I'm like, the doctors don't know everything, right? And especially as a Black woman, I realized we have to advocate for ourselves and our health, and especially in these times when it's critical, right? So it was at that point that I decided. My grandmother was visiting me to help me out, and I'm sorry about the kids, but at that point, I realized that I needed to try to take matters into my own hands as best as I could. So I decided to completely detox my body. I got on some heavy herbs, and I was eating pretty much nothing except fruits and lightly cooked veggies and walnuts, and I was keeping it extremely clean. After about 3 months of eating like that, I saw a dramatic difference in my bleeding. The bleeding slowed down and practically stopped. And then at some point, a few months later, the bleeding was pretty much gone. So I'm like, wow, like the power of herbs, the power of food, the power of mindset, and just the power that we have within us to heal our bodies. I felt so amazing. And then I got ready to take my grandmother back home for her own checkups. And during that time, there was a few events that some of my friends had going on. I went and I decided to have a couple of drinks. And I hadn't been drinking during that 3-month process, but I have had a few drinks after the bleeding stopped. And Started back eating normal. My normal is still plant based, but I started back eating normal, and which is still not good. Just because you're plant based doesn't mean that you're necessarily eating good, you know. So like if it's heavily processed, it's still not good. Rice and potatoes and all of these starchy things are still not good. So I realized in that moment that uh, I guess what I thought was wrong, right? So my body wasn't ready for me to start eating like that, or that's the only thing that I can imagine would have caused me to start bleeding again. Because shortly after I started bleeding again, and I thought that was my period, because the doctor said once the bleeding finally stops, this next time you start bleeding, it should be your actual period. So I'm like, okay, this is my period. Um, well, it's been a month and almost 1 week now, and I'm still bleeding. And guys, I wouldn't even want to show you how much blood it is, but I do take pictures just for the doctor's sake. I don't know what the guidelines are right now. I don't know if I'm allowed to even show that, but when I tell you I'm like pouring blood, like I can't explain it. It's so much blood. And at this point, I'm starting to recognize the same symptoms that I had before when the doctors told me to get to the ER. I'm noticing that I feel, um, my head, I have more headaches, and I feel, I don't want to say I feel weak, right? Because I think that there's powers in words. But if I just had to just give you a simple word to describe it, that's what I would say. I feel weak sometimes. If I walk upstairs, I feel extremely winded. I feel like I could literally pass out. Um, it's it's not been easy, and um, I realize that uh, it's just. I think my body is telling me that my blood levels have probably dropped down again. And I'm not gonna lie that I don't have a little anxiety, that it doesn't slightly frighten me, because the doctors clearly don't know what it is. And it's just considered abnormal uterine bleeding, right? When they don't know what it is, they just call it abnormal uterine bleeding. It could be caused by fibroids, by polyps, by uterine cancer, or a cyst. Um, they did tell me that my endometrium, my lining was very thick and unusually thick considering I just had surgery. So again, I'm not going to lie to you and say that it doesn't worry me with my kids being this small. Um, but I I realize that all I can do is try. All I can do is share my story, hope that maybe someone sees it that has more answers than me. There are different herbs that I'm on. I've started back detoxing my body only recently, though, um, because after eating like that for three months or so, I was just in my head. Honestly, you guys, I'm like, I feel like I'm a person that has a lot of discipline, but I'm just like, I miss my rice and my potatoes, and I want a glass of wine when I go to dinner, and I want, I want a plant based burger, and I miss those things, but I realize in the grand scheme, it's not important. They're literally chanting. I'm so sorry. I hope it's not too loud on my recording. I don't have the energy to yell. I don't want to yell anyway, but I don't even telling my children something like more than once, like we have to do at this age. I don't have the energy, right? So they are completely taking advantage of this. But so I realized that at this point, like I said, I need to go follow back up. The doctors have me scheduled for another biopsy in a month from now. They felt like doing it now would be too soon, considering they did a biopsy when I had my surgery and it came back negative. And I don't know if it's a situation where maybe it's where they tested it was negative. Maybe they needed to test in another area. So I'm not sure, but we are going to test my lining again to see if it's cancerous. Um, but I just went this morning to get my blood work done. So I definitely plan on hopping back on here and like updating you guys with that to let you know if my blood levels have dropped again too low or to a critical condition. But my plan right now is to just detox my body, eat as clean as possible, pray that my body does what it did initially after my surgery when I was eating correctly. I do know that it takes some time for your body to adjust. It's not an overnight thing, nothing is overnight, you know. So, but I am hoping that I start to see results in the next couple of weeks. And I would love to keep you guys updated on this process with me. Um, and more than that, right now, I know that it's important to, when you're healing your body, right? It's more than just a physical thing. It's just as much mental and spiritual as it is physical. So I want to take this time and through this process, make sure that I am releasing other things that don't serve me as well, right? Making sure I'm going back and I might journal. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm definitely going to include you guys on the process of just the complete process to healing my body. So, if any of you have dealt with this or you know somebody that has dealt with this, please share tips or any advice that you may have. Um, and keep me and my kids and my family in your prayers. And I will beat this. I will beat this. I will not be defeated. Um, I will not allow my fear and my anxiety to overcome me and to make me feel like I will not conquer this. I believe it is something deeper that God is forcing me to deal with, something deeper that God is forcing me to see, to learn. And, um, I had one day I tried to do that thing that we do where I was like, well, why me or why am I dealing with this? But I quickly stopped that because I realized that, like, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, crazy things happen to great people all the time. And sometimes it's just because, it's whatever, sometimes it's as a result of our own habits. Sometimes, my body might have been genetically predisposed because of other women in my lineage to have a more sensitive uterus, so then me eating certain foods could trigger it more easily. So in my head I'm like, but I eat so well and da 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 da, but what does that matter? It doesn't matter, because if God is calling me to be more disciplined, then that's what I need to do. Or if God is calling me to appreciate the things that I have while I have it, then that's what I need to do. um Um, so like I said, the process is definitely opening my eyes. It's definitely making me learn to enjoy the chaos more than to get frustrated by it. We don't know when our last moment is. We don't know when our last breath is. So, and most of us, when we're in a position where a loved one is hurt, or when we're hurt or sick, and we're vulnerable, we pray to God and we ask God for everything, and we make all these promises to God. And we would love to hear our kids screaming and acting a fool one last time. So it's making me really slow down. And I'm somebody who has worked a lot. um, I went through a divorce a few years ago that has not been an easy process. And then I also lost my father during that process. And my dad was my rock. My dad, we were extremely close. Um, my mom and my brothers don't live close to me. We're all very spread out. And unfortunately, I love my mom, and my mom has amazing qualities, but we have not had the easiest relationship. And part of that is because my mom has her own trauma, and I can recognize that. So I don't have the support that I'd like to have, but again, who am I? Some people have far less. So I just realize now that it's time to just appreciate everything. It's time to thank God. Thank God in the middle of your storm. Thank God when you feel your lowest. Praise God and thank God when things don't seem like they're going your way. Because God will do so much for us. You ever heard that saying? You tell somebody yes a million times, and when you tell them no one time, you're the bad guy, right? But it's like God holds us through so much. And most times we don't follow the way that we're supposed to, or we don't live our life the way that we're supposed to. We engage in gossiping, we talk about people, or we don't take care of our temple. We put anything in our body. I mean, I have people in my life that'll say, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die happy, eating what I want to eat. And that's fine if that's what you want. But I don't want to die sooner than I'm supposed to. And I want to be here for my children. And I want to see them grow up. So if I have a health issue and changing my diet may help, I'm going to try. And that's not to judge someone who chooses to just eat whatever, but it's just me saying that sometimes we don't appreciate the things that God gives us until they're taken. Um, in our house fire, obviously I lost clothes, I lost shoes, I lost perfume, I lost jewelry, I lost, those things. We lost our things, but then there are also those things that are far more valuable, like pictures. My father and my grandfather were both in the military, and I had a lot of their military awards and things. I lost those things. There are some pictures and gifts and things that I will never get back, things that can never be replaced that I also lost. But now I realize that God is teaching me a lesson of detachment, because so often we attach to these things, and those things are not important. I have my memories of my father. I have my memories of my grandfather. Babe, you are so loud, and I'm recording a video. You guys are both loud. Oh, I know it was. Go put your oil on. Go, 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 go. And they're louder. This is my life, by the way. It's my real life. I don't have time to. Maybe there will be a moment where I can record a video without them in the background, and hopefully next time, guys, I can do that for you. But God, Zion, Zai, it's way too loud. No, Zai, it's like, please, just give me silence for like 3 minutes. Okay. Please, no, please, I'm recording. Okay, but we're not lying. Yes. I didn't say you were lying. I'm just saying you're loud. Can you go close your mouth? Okay. I'm recording. Stop talking to me. Go in the room. Go in the room. Go in the room. Thank you for the kiss. Boo me a kiss. I'm sorry, y'all. But I'm gonna wrap this up, okay? Because I don't think they're gonna get any more quiet. But I'm just here to say that I would love for you all to join me on this journey of healing my body, healing my spirit, healing my mental, just healing holistically in every way. And I can't wait for the day that I get to tell you guys my bleeding has stopped, because that's what I claim for my life. That's what I claim for my children. Again, I ask for your prayers and your affirmations for me and my family. And if any of you know anything, I would appreciate any advice you have. And I appreciate your support. I hope that you all join me on this journey and check in to see what the update is. I will be updating you. And again, I'm just grateful that you took the time to listen and to hear my story. I had a good friend of mine create a GoFundMe. The GoFundMe was initially for $25,000, and since then I've had a $30,000 surgery, and I've had $15,000 in transfusions and may potentially need more. And those things have not been covered at all, because I think I I only earned, I think right now, maybe like 7,000, which has been a blessing. And to everyone who donated, if you donated and you're watching this video, I just want to say thank you, because it has helped me and my children, like, in ways I can't even explain, in terms of trying to get back on our feet after the devastation of our house. But now with me having health issues, um, that impacts me being able to work. That impacts me being able to provide. It just, it's affected so much of our lives. And this is me taking the effort to take it into my own hands. I know the doctors are going to do whatever they can, but there's limited research on this situation. And again, I'm just so grateful. And I just want to remind you all, no matter what you're going through, in the middle of your storm, in the middle of those bad days, pray and praise God and thank God. And God has not forgotten you. There is a message in our pain, and there is a message in the things that we go through. So remember that. And I just want you to know that you will get through it. You will get through it. We will get through this. We will get through it together. Thank you for listening. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I hope you guys tune in for the next video update. So until then, see you guys later.